Have you ever walked into a room in your house and suddenly forgotten why you went there? Have you ever been in the middle of a conversation and struggled to remember a simple word that you've used your entire life? Or perhaps you've noticed that tasks that once seemed extremely simple now require more concentration, more energy, and leave you mentally exhausted at the end of the day. Maybe you've started writing things down that you never needed to write down before. Maybe you've noticed that you're more impatient, more anxious, or more emotionally sensitive. Maybe it's taking you longer to make decisions, or you feel like your mind is no longer keeping up with the same pace it had a few years ago. If this is happening to you, I want you to know something very important right from the beginning. You are not losing your intelligence. You are not becoming lazy, and you are definitely not imagining these changes. In fact, millions of women around the world are going through exactly the same thing, and unfortunately, many of them face this period in silence, believing that they are aging rapidly or that there is something seriously wrong with their brains. Some even become afraid that they are developing Alzheimer's disease, early dementia, or some type of neurological condition. But science has been discovering something extremely important that every woman should know. There is a biological, hormonal, and metabolic explanation behind these changes. Before we continue, if you enjoy learning about women's health, menopause, healthy aging, and evidence-based strategies to live better after your 40s, 50s, and 60s, take a moment to subscribe to the channel. Our goal is to transform complex medical information into simple, accessible, and trustworthy content so that you can feel safer, more prepared, and more empowered to navigate this stage of life. Now, let's investigate something that many women have never heard explained clearly. Menopause is not just a reproductive transition. It is also a profound brain transition. For decades, menopause was discussed only as the moment when menstruation stops. But institutions such as the North American Menopause Society, Harvard Medical School, Mayo Clinic, and the National Institutes of Health have been showing that this view is extremely limited. Menopause affects virtually the entire body, and the brain is among the organs that feel this transformation the most. This happens because estrogen is not just a hormone linked to fertility. In reality, it acts as one of the body's major regulators. Every single day for decades, estrogen helped your brain function efficiently. It participates in communication between neurons. It helps protect brain connections. It supports blood circulation. It contributes to energy production inside cells. It helps regulate body temperature. It participates in emotional control. It influences mood. It helps organize sleep. And it also participates in mechanisms related to memory and learning. Imagine for a moment a large control center that worked perfectly for 40 or 50 years and suddenly begins receiving less support. That is exactly what happens during menopause. The brain must relearn how to function in a new hormonal environment. And this adaptation does not always happen quietly. That is why so many women begin experiencing symptoms that seemingly have nothing to do with each other. Brain fog, frequent forgetfulness, difficulty maintaining attention, mood swings, increased emotional sensitivity, irritability, anxiety, insomnia, mental exhaustion, lower stress tolerance. Many women believe that each one of these symptoms is a separate problem, but the truth is that all of them may be part of the same biological process. There is an extremely interesting scientific concept that helps explain this: the brain's energy crisis during menopause. It may sound complicated, but I will simplify it. The brain consumes approximately 20% of all the energy produced by the body, even though it represents only a small percentage of total body weight. It works all the time, and in order to function properly, it depends on a fuel called glucose. Estrogen helps brain cells use this glucose efficiently. When estrogen levels decline, some women go through a temporary reduction in this energy efficiency. It is as if an entire city had to continue functioning while receiving less energy than it was accustomed to. The lights do not completely go out, but some systems stop operating with the same speed and efficiency. That is exactly why many women describe a very specific feeling. They say, "I am still myself, but it feels like my brain is slower," and that feeling is real. This helps explain why some women wake up tired even after a full night's sleep. It helps explain why concentration declines. It helps explain why memory seems to fail at unexpected moments. And most importantly, it helps remove the guilt that many women carry. Because this is not happening due to a lack of effort. It is happening because the brain is going through a major adaptation. But there is another important player in this story: cortisol, the famous stress hormone. Under normal conditions, cortisol is essential for our survival. It helps the body respond to daily challenges. The problem arises when the body remains in a state of alert for too long. Estrogen, throughout much of life, helped modulate this response. When it declines, the nervous system may become more sensitive. Small situations begin to feel enormous. Simple problems seem harder to solve. Patience decreases. Irritability increases. Anxiety appears more frequently. And little by little, a silent cycle begins. Stress worsens sleep. Poor sleep increases cortisol. Elevated cortisol promotes abdominal fat accumulation. Excess fat increases inflammation. Inflammation worsens symptoms, and symptoms further increase stress. Now, I want to talk about an aspect that many women underestimate: sleep. Sleep is not simply a moment of rest. It is a brain repair tool. During the night, the brain consolidates memories, reorganizes information, regulates emotions, and removes metabolic waste accumulated throughout the day. But menopause frequently interrupts this process. Hot flashes, night sweats, changes in body temperature regulation, frequent awakenings. Even when a woman does not notice it, her brain does. And this repeated fragmentation of sleep begins to affect several areas of health: memory, mood, concentration, energy, decision-making, the ability to deal with stressful situations. This is exactly where many women begin connecting the dots. What once seemed like a collection of isolated symptoms suddenly begins to make sense. Everything is connected. Some women also choose to explore supportive strategies beyond lifestyle habits. Since maintaining metabolic health, energy balance, and overall well-being become increasingly important during menopause, some viewers may decide to learn about the supplement mentioned in the description as an additional tool to discuss with their healthcare provider as part of a broader wellness approach. But the investigation does not end here. We need to talk about inflammation. With the reduction of estrogen combined with a sedentary lifestyle, chronic stress, inadequate sleep, and increased abdominal fat, the body may enter a heightened inflammatory state. And inflammation does not only affect joints or muscles, it can also affect the brain. That is why some women notice that their symptoms worsen precisely during periods when they are sleeping poorly, eating poorly, and living under constant pressure. Another extremely important factor is insulin. Insulin works like a key that helps glucose enter the cells. However, during menopause, some women develop insulin resistance. This means that the body needs to produce more and more insulin to perform the same task. This process promotes abdominal fat gain, difficulty losing weight, reduced energy, and important metabolic changes. And all of this also affects brain health. At this point, an inevitable question arises: does menopause permanently destroy the brain? The answer is no. And this may be one of the most reassuring pieces of news a woman can receive. Current science does not support the idea that menopause destroys the brain. It represents a period of adaptation, and the brain has an extraordinary ability called neuroplasticity. This means that it can create new connections, reorganize circuits, and adapt to new circumstances throughout life. Many symptoms gradually improve. Hot flashes tend to decrease. Night sweats usually improve. Emotional fluctuations tend to stabilize. However, there are areas that deserve ongoing attention. Muscle mass naturally declines with age. Bone health becomes more important. Cardiovascular health requires more care. Sleep quality must be protected. And metabolic health begins to play a central role in quality of life. But there is excellent news. A large part of these variables is under your control. So, what can we do to protect the brain during menopause? Practice resistance training regularly. Consume enough protein. Adopt a Mediterranean-inspired eating pattern. Prioritize quality sleep. Reduce chronic stress. Remain physically active. Stimulate your brain with new learning experiences. Maintain social connections. Avoid prolonged periods of sitting. And seek medical guidance whenever symptoms begin interfering with your quality of life. These strategies do not only protect the body, they directly help the brain. And perhaps the most important message is this: knowledge reduces fear. When you understand what is happening, guilt disappears. When guilt disappears, confidence returns. And when confidence returns, you begin to realize that you still have a great deal of control over your own health. As part of a comprehensive approach, some women also explore the supplement mentioned in the description to support metabolism, daily well-being, and healthy aging during menopause. It should never replace medical care, but some women find benefits in combining it with proper nutrition, exercise, sleep improvement, and professional guidance. For this reason, the first link in the description features a supplement developed to support women during this stage of life, helping metabolism, weight management, and overall well-being during menopause and postmenopause. So, after all, how does menopause affect the brain? It affects the brain because estrogen is deeply involved in brain energy production, memory, emotional regulation, sleep, stress response, blood circulation, and communication between billions of neurons. When this hormone declines, the brain enters an adaptation process that may trigger brain fog, forgetfulness, anxiety, fatigue, and temporary cognitive changes. But these changes do not mean that you are losing your mental abilities. They mean that your brain is adapting to a new stage of life. And the good news is that there are numerous science-backed strategies capable of helping you go through this period with much more well-being, autonomy, and quality of life. Menopause does not represent the end of your vitality. It represents the beginning of a new relationship with your body. And the sooner you understand what is happening, the sooner you can act to protect your physical, mental, and emotional health. If this content helped you, subscribe to the channel and continue learning with us. There are still many discoveries about women's health that every woman deserves to know.